Hello my friends and welcome back once again. We have just wrapped up Season 1 of our F1 2019 career. I haven't quite hit the Advance to Season 2 button yet because we're going to go ahead and do all the R&D developments and that sort of thing for the off-season, but the race is completed and this will be heading over to Australia as soon as we get that done. So we've got a nice hefty chunk of performance points to spend. We finished the season one slot up from the bottom, but we were very vigilant in bumping our adaptations, so we won't lose any progress over the season. We've got a lot of points to spend here, so obviously we'll repurchase that failed engine component. Now we've got an ultimate upgrade going on in the aero department there. That'll be a massive upgrade that we won't have to wait for because it's over the off season. Same thing with that rear downforce, a major upgrade normally would take 2 weeks. And then this season we really want to try and make sure that our gearboxes and our engines don't fail nearly as frequently. Hopefully try to take no gearbox penalties this season. So we go ahead and pop a couple on there. And we will get ready to jump across to next season here. So we're going to click next season. We'll get our nice little season in review there. Take a look at our finish positions. 16, 15, 15, 14, 17, 8, 10, 16, 8, 6... Let's see, and then once we hit the, after the summer breaks, starting with the Belgian Grand Prix, there was only one race that we did not score in the points, so we really came alive in the second half. 2 podiums that season as well. Brazil was the only little short hop, basically a bad strategy choice, put us in into trouble there. So here we are, now we are in the brand new season here, heading to Australia. I know, tons of fanfare jumping from one. Our first target is 5 championship points. Should be doable, right? In 2 race weekends. We'll see where we come out in the developments contracts as well. Let's see what other teams did. All 3 of our developments succeeded. A couple driver moves. Daniel Ricciardo going back to Renault. Hülkenberg is out of his seat, and Giovinazzi, whose seat was taken by our old teammate Lucas in the Alfa Romeo, has signed on with Red Bull. So we'll see those completed developments. And one thing you'll notice was missing was the durability developments. Apparently, and I learned this the hard way, if that department is being adapted, even if you create the developments for the off season, you will fail them because they aren't adapted. So here we are. We've jumped up the R&D tree. We are now sitting performance index wise best of the rest. You see that huge jump up. Nobody really went down in the adaptation, so everybody seemed to be doing really well, keeping up with the adaptations coming in for the rule changes. But here we are, best of the rest. Still a big gulf up to the top teams, but let's head over to qualifying.
We're just about ready to kick off today's qualifying here in Melbourne. It's the Australian Grand Prix. With the weather as it is today, Anthony Davidson, we have, to some extent, to throw the form book out of the window. Who do you see having the advantage on this slippery, unpredictable track surface?
The trouble is, Crofty, they need to be thinking about the race tomorrow. You don't want to go jacking up the ride heights and piling on a few points of extra downforce that you're not going to want in the Grand Prix itself. The Parc Fermé regulations mean that you have to make that choice. The best thing the drivers can do is adapt with the tools they have available in the cockpit. Moving the brake bias forward will help stop the rear end slipping out under braking, and opening up the differential can really help tame the oversteer on corner exit. The drivers that can make best use of these techniques will have the best chance for success here today.
Alright, so here we are, a soaking wet, raining qualifying for our first weekend of the season. Something that we did not enjoy at any point last season. Almost half of our races last year were rain affected, and we're off to a great start here. Full wet qualifying. There's going to be light rain the whole way through. Not enough for wet tires, but it's going to be inters. And here we are coming to the end of the first lap. I think this season I will be skipping the lap tour previews like we did at each track last season, because you will get a good view of it throughout the actual races of how the course is laid out, and you can always go back and check out the first ones. If there's desire for those to come back, I'll start doing them again. But here we are, 6 laps in, and we are just P17, so really struggled. ended up, as the time went on, finished, you see a scroll down here, dead last in the wet qualifying, way beyond the pace. Not the best situation, but here we are, just like last season, starting our first race of the season from absolutely dead last.
They say that even a second is an eternity in Formula One, so going 4 winter months with no racing at all has seemed a very long time indeed. We're back though in Melbourne, home of the Australian Grand Prix since 1996. Just south of Melbourne's downtown business centre is the one and only Albert Park circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy circuit with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake and a couple of good passing opportunities here as well, thanks in part to the DRS zones into turns 1, 3 and 13. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Leclerc, Max Verstappen and Raikkonen, Weber, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz. Hamilton, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Gasly, Lando Norris and Magnussen. Russell, Albon, Romain Grosjean and Lance Stroll, Butler and Oldtimer. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Not the best place to be at the start of a new season, so let's make sure we show the team what we can do.
You can say that again, Jeff. Not the best place to start a new season. So we're going to have to be making a lot of overtakes, and you can see an interesting race setup, bright and sunny, then moving into cloudy and a little bit of rain right at the tail end of the race. And it's going to be the real gamble of what strategy we really run, how that rain is going to come in. Is it going to be like Monza last year where it only arrives on the last lap and we are able to limp our way around on the dry tire to finish off the race? Or is it going to be like Singapore where we're going to have 4 to 5 laps of wet running at the end? So I spend quite a bit of time playing around. If that rain comes earlier, if it comes with, 4 or 5 laps to go, I'd want to go soft onto the medium to make sure that I'm running the fastest tire possible. But if that rain doesn't come by the end, if I'm on the medium tire there, then I'm going to be running out of grip and I'm going to lose a ton of time as the tire falls off. So in that case, maybe going with the hard to the end is the better strategy. I mean, we're definitely going to want to start on the soft in order to make up as much ground as I can early in the race, because in order to get in the points, we're gonna have to overtake a lot of people. And like I said, I spent a lot of time fiddling and tweaking and dialing and seeing what the best strategy really would be for us. So that's kind of going on in the background. I think at this point, since I've got a little bit of extra time as I'm messing with that and thinking, it's a good point to set some goals for us. So last season, we obviously had the first half of the season was the goal of getting into the points once or twice. The second half of the season was remaining consistently in the points and fighting that midfield battle. We're starting this season off in that best of the rest slot. So typically, according to Performance Index, we should be the 7th and 8th fastest cars on the grid. Which means we should be in the points starting off the season. Obviously, it's going to be tough starting from P20. But I think starting off the season, the first half is going to be kind of feeling out the car. Again, I went up in difficulty 10 points. So I'm racing on 96 difficulty now is where I'm at now. So definitely a harder difficulty to run on, much faster opponents. They're more consistent, don't make as many errors. So I think first half of the season, a good goal is to not finish a race outside of the points. I think for the second half of the season, I should be looking to beat my last year's podium total of 2. So I want to double that podium total. I want to go for 4 podiums this year. And I want end of season results. I want us to be P7 in the championship, and in the Drivers' Championship and P4 in the Constructors. We want that best of the rest slot. That's my goals for this season. So here we are, a little slow getaway, letting the big group run off, and we're going to go ahead and take a little dive as Grosjean squeezes us off the track. But we managed to, for the moment, pick up a spot on Lance Stroll there on the inside of P20, but we're going to go ahead and use this braking zone to pull along. Grosjean just absolutely turned in on us. He's being squeezed 3 wide, and he's just slamming into us as we try and hold out around the outside. Just not enough room for 3 cars to go wide, so little elbows out, some good old NASCAR style racing there, rubbing a lot. But luckily no damage to any of us. It was just side pod to side pod contact, no punctures, no front end or wing damage. But we are up into P18, and we're going to settle in behind Alex Albon, who in real life is making good use of that Red Bull seat he's got now alongside Max Verstappen. But so now it's a matter of settling in, see where we can pick off a good passing opportunities. We're not going to have DRS for a couple of more laps, but we definitely don't want to waste this opportunity. We want to make use of these tires while they're fresh. It is a full fuel load. We are as heavy as we'll be throughout the race at this point. So we do have to get on the brakes a little earlier than we did in practice sessions and qualifying, and definitely going to have to be careful with throwing the car's weight around. But we're going to have to maneuver our ERS settings and try and make up ground on the straightaways. Make sure to make good use of the slipstream before the DRS starts up. But it all comes down to getting good exits out of these corners and getting good runs. And we're not going to gain much in the slipstream because, well, Albon's in the slipstream himself. So he's getting a nice tow. So we've really got to nail a corner in order to have a pass just based on raw pace without DRS in this long train. So here we are, we got the ERS turned up, maybe taking a little look to the inside, not quite far enough alongside to make the dive in there. Just decided to back out of that one to not crack our front wing off. So we're gonna have to settle it down through this area. This fast left-right, this high-speed chicane is tough to follow through. Just because you don't have the downforce on the front of your car. Your nose definitely just wants to understeer straight off, and then obviously clipping that inside curb, and the outside curb has a chance to really unsettle the car. So it's really about hanging on. It's tough to get a really good run through that chicane in order to get a good run up onto your opponents to make a pass into a pretty good braking zone. I mean, it is a DRS section. Once that's enabled, we get a pretty solid run off of the final corner there. See us tuck into the slipstream, look around the outside, and he's just a little better on the brakes through that one, so we're going to go ahead and tuck in. We get a little bit of a snap oversteer that we have to save there, so we drop back. Grosjean and Stroll are still battling it out right behind us, and at this point, Albon's starting to hold us up. He's just fast enough to where we're not able to make an easy pass, but he is definitely losing contact with the cars in front of him, so we want to try and get by him as soon as we can. Otherwise, we're really going to lose a lot of ground on this group that's running in front of us, and we got to make some moves. We got to make a lot of moves in order to get into the points and really not screw our personal goal of not missing out on points this early in the season. About 3/10 off. We're going to try and get a good run through this now that DRS is enabled. You can see just how it's tough to get the power down out of that corner. He has DRS as well. We are able to pull up a little bit in there. We're going to drop our ERS deployment down too low. Start harvesting some energy in these slower corners to make sure we've got a lot to deploy. We get on the grass, big oversteer. Got to make a bit of a save. Somehow we keep the car pointed forward. Almost full lock the other way. And that is really going to compromise our ability to make a run down into turn 1. So we pop up in DRS, we turn up ERS just a little bit to make a little bit of ground, but it's not one we're going to make a good passing situation on. So again, coming out of turn 2, another DRS zone, we are just going to use that to help close up the gap into turn 3. We got a pretty good battery charge, so we're leaving the ERS deployment in high to get as much as we can out of these straight runoffs. Once we get down into the 40s and 30s is typically when I turn it back down for harvesting. This track, a lot of braking zones, a lot of opportunities to use that regenerative braking. As we take a look finally down the inside, we've got the pace on that one. Teeny bit of a lockup, but we are smooth and clean past him. Now we've got a chance to chase down the next Haas in front of us. I believe that's still K-Mag, Kevin Magnussen in front. Don't believe they've made a change there. I think basically the teams are the same. Pierre Gasly's still in his seat at Renault from last year after that change where he swapped. And then also, obviously, Giovinazzi's on the grid and Hulkenberg is out. So here we are along the inside of K-Mag, battling wheel to wheel through this set of corners. We have a little bit of a lockup and we have to slow up because Butler's slow in front of us, and that allows K-Mag to get his nose a little further down, but we hold the inside line as we come out of the final corner. Good exit, ERS cranked up with DRS wide open, and we are rocketing down the front straight. Closing up on the next Toro Rosso, our old F2 rival, Devin Butler, that British mode. Turn 3 is a very tricky braking zone and easy to oversteer getting on the power because you want to try and get a run down to turn 4 as quick as you can, but it's another quick little ease up and braking zone. So we've got the group battling in front of us. Butler, looks like Norris and Gasly, so they're a huge clump that we've managed to get here. We're going to have a look down the inside of Butler, but he moves to kind of cover us off. Would have probably been wing damage if we really stuck our nose down in there, so we're going to go ahead and keep out of that. Hopefully we can follow well through this chicane section in order to get a good run into the last corner. So we have to really alter our line. He was very slow through there, so we had to kind of move to avoid contact. That causes us to lose some ground in the DRS zone, but this group in front of us now, side by side in front, Gasly and Butler battling it out. And you've got Norris holding off, and Butler got through pretty cleanly into that next corner. So we aren't able to separate from Albon just yet. He's managed to get through Magnussen as well. But we get a pretty good run off of the final corner. We've got DRS open. That group in front is battling alongside the McLaren Renault, fighting side by side. So that'll hold that group up for us and allow us to catch up. A lot of action early on in this race for us. So there we go, big train. We're going for the double overtake into turn 3. We get out clean on the brakes, no lockups. We're able to get smoothly by Butler. Teeny bit of a tap lock as we come through turn 5, but turn 6 we're clean through. We managed to pick up another 2 positions. We got Danny Rick just ahead of us now. Back in that Renault seat after spending a little time back with Red Bull. An interesting combination of the driver transfers there. Thought for sure he would stay in that Red Bull seat, but apparently that deal with Renault was just too sweet. He wanted to keep it, so he's back there, and we are closing up on Lando Norris in front. After these 2, we finally will have caught our teammate George Russell, who had a much better qualifying than us. We got a good run down into this corner on the brakes a little bit later than Danny Rick. Very smooth through the apex. Complete the pass completely before we hit that turn exit. We got Lando Norris to chase down next. Now I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's too far back of George Russell to have DRS enabled, so we have a good chance of reeling him in a lot on this straight. Maybe even an opportunity to catch him on the next straight.
We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the hard.
We just turned in our best lap of the race so far, a 1:28.3 at the moment, just by a little bit.
Behind by a few seconds per lap.
And Danny Rick is really falling off of us. We again have DRS on Lando. We're able to close up a fair bit there, but not quite enough to fight him yet. So we are using a lot of ERS deployment in order to hang with him and close that up, and we'll finally turn it down just a bit in order to get a little more harvesting done. But you can see us ripping through the corners there as George Russell runs by, and now we are catching up to Lando. So we are right on the back bumper. It's one of our overtaking zones. But now we just got to see if we can make a good run through the chicane and tag him down the next straight. So we have a little peek to the inside. Not a great look there, but we managed to stay pretty nose to tail with him. So with DRS wide open, it should be a pretty easy go. We have to swing wide. We clip the grass, and it sends us back across. We managed to just almost connect with Lando. Maybe a teeny tiny touch, but that grass unsettled the car big time with the DRS open. Caused the back to be kind of unstable as well, but luckily not a major wreck. So we jump ahead, lap 9, just another 2-lap jump as we've managed to keep Norris behind us. We are into the pits. We're going to be one of the first, I guess actually the first car to jump into the pits and get onto a new set of tires. A very, very slow pit lane here in Australia, just over 35 miles an hour. And there we are onto the hards that at this point we're hoping that the rain treats it like it did in Monza, where it comes at the very last lap and we're going to be finishing on a dry tire. So we're going to be running these hards all the way to the end, these shiny brand new hard tires. So you come out obviously P20 dead last as we were the first first car to stop. But we have a chance now to really run down the rest of this group. We've showed pretty good pace on the hards in practice, which is why I made a good decision to go on them. But we aren't able to carry as much speed through some of these corners until these get warmed up. It does take about a lap and a half to really get them up to temperature, but we're about 12 seconds back of Grosjean at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and jump ahead, lap 16, as the pit stops have shaken out. See yellow flags ahead. That is Pierre Gasly, who is DNF'd. We've caught up to George Russell again. And you see in the running, there is 18 cars left running. Unfortunately, the pole sitter, Valtteri Bottas, again, just like last year, a DNF in Australia, DNFs again this year. And he went out a couple of laps before in the middle of the jump. Nothing else really happened. But bad luck for the Mercedes driver. Start of the season, again, no points. He is DNF, not even completing. So we are reeling in our teammate George Russell, using a lot of that ERS. We close up. He's on the slightly faster tire on the medium, which a lot of cars that we faced, they decided to go with the soft to medium strategy. So they are going to lose some pace at the very end of the race, I believe. But they are running the faster tire for the majority of it. I believe if I was right, in my testing in practice, I was running, the hards were running right around a second a lap slower than the mediums for me. Obviously, different drivers will handle those tires a little bit differently, but that's kind of was my personal experience. So I was expecting we were probably going to have to two-stop if we were going on to the mediums, just because the amount of wear we were causing to them. So that's why I went on to the hards. Jeff, you don't have to tell me how to manage my battery. I know what I'm doing. But yeah, we see it turn back down to medium. We'll probably swap it to low if we can get some clear air. We are still being chased down by George in this slower technical section, a lot more corners. He's got the tire advantage on us. You can see he's going to be in DRS, I believe, down the next area. So we head through the sweepers once again. George Russell definitely close enough. He's within that 1 second through the detection zone, so we're going to have to spend a fair bit of ERS deployment in order to keep him behind us. Caught a warning there for cutting the track. We just overturned that chicane a little bit, but they managed to keep George behind us. So once again, though, we are through a pretty slow section where he's going to have tire grip advantage over us on the hards here. So almost certainly will have DRS once again. Definitely a good indicator that I've got the difficulty to a spot that I should, in that once I caught George, we were definitely battling with him. It's definitely something I'll revisit throughout. But next race, we are going to have a notoriously AI strong track. That Bahrain track, the AI is just mega on. You see George Russell looking to go down the inside. We hang around the outside and just barely keep the position. We rumble over the curves and lose a little bit of speed. And he's still right on our tail. Same with Lando Norris, tucked right in close. You can see those the arrows turning red as he dances around behind us. We're running about 1.3 seconds off of our best lap at the moment, which is not too surprising considering we ran on softs earlier on. But once we start to get some fuel burned off, get towards the end stages of this race, we should have a pretty good opportunity of turning in a slightly faster lap, but it's really going to be about pace management as Carlos Sainz is about 5 seconds up the road from us on faster tires. So it's going to be tough to try and catch him up, I think. We're finally managing as Norris and Russell are kind of scrapping behind us now. You see Norris has gotten through. Will hopefully give us an opportunity to get clear of the DRS range from them. If we can do that, then we have a chance of finally stopping our defense and starting to really run and try and chase down Carlos Sainz over these last 10 laps.
Okay, you're in the...
But here we go. We're jumping ahead. Lap 28, do a 9-lap jump. Carlos Sainz has run off down the track in front of us, 8.7 seconds up as we hit the final lap, and you can see the rain just starting to fall. We've got a pretty good gap, 5 and a bit seconds to George Russell behind us. He's still scrapping away with Lando Norris. So now it's just going to be a matter of how fast this track gets wet and how fast we lose grip. Some tracks lose it, in half a lap. Some tracks take 2 laps or so to lose the grip. But at this point, we aren't going to be chasing down Carlos Sainz in front of us. It's just about managing that 5-second gap to the cars behind. We are P10, so we managed to get into the points, if only just. You can see the raindrops covering the halo and the sides. You can see fighting the steering wheel a little bit through the corners, a little bit of counter steer to keep the car on track. The track is definitely picking up moisture very, very quickly. Real tough on the grip here. You can see we're doing our best Tokyo Drift impression there through the chicane for the last time. Somehow managed to keep the car pointed forward with that slide. Max Verstappen is your race winner. That Red Bull is top of the performance index charts. But you can see some wheel spin even out of these slow corners. You see how little throttle input I'm able to put up, keeping it in higher gears so we aren't being too torquey with it, trying not to spin the tires up too much. But you see we are just crawling our way through the final corner. When we took it over 100 miles an hour in the dry, we're moving at about 60 miles an hour through this time, but ease our way back onto the throttle to cross the finish line. P10 managed to stay in the points this time.
Out all the stops today. What a great win. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a drive with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently. It's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be proud of the victory they secured here.
So you got Verstappen P1, Leclerc P2, and defending champion Lewis Hamilton
After this
P3.
round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. Today's performance means Max Verstappen now owns the top spot in the drivers' championship. Some amazing talent out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Old Timer. There was a lot going on all down the field, but they were the only one who I really felt maximised their potential.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Red Bull take over as championship leaders. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Great work out there today. Let's have your thoughts. You gained a lot of positions during the race, didn't you?
Yeah, the car's nimble, it's light, it was a breeze to get past people.
You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't do this without the great team behind me.
It wasn't the cleanest race today, was it?
Yeah, especially in that first lap scrap. It was like I was an idiot, Magna. Like people just bumping into me. Except for that time I ran into Norris. That was my bad.
Did you feel comfortable in the wet weather today?
No, honestly, I hate the rain. You have to try your best regardless. I mean, I've had terrible qualifying performances
Great. Well,
in
that's
the
everything.
rain, and you know, it's just not my best suit. Still with the practice, still not my best thing. But so here we are on the rivalry breakdown. We lose a little bit of ground to Checo there. He picks up 4 points to our 2, but we've got a little bit of a lead. And we've got a healthy lead on George Russell as well. So hopefully we should be able to wrap up some of these rivalries pretty soon and move on to the next battles. But here's our resource and research and development points. Let's see what we can roll in. I mean, it's nice to get driver of the day, but no R&D bonus for that, I guess. We got 1,400 to play with, and big rep boost. Obviously, you come from the back of the grid to the points. You're going to make your team pretty happy. Although the car definitely should be in the points. It was just the rain that kept me out of a good qualifying position.
Looks like one of your rivals has also been invited to a historical event. This could be a good opportunity to play up your rivalry for the press and expand your reputation.
All right, let's take a peek at the messages. Invitational. Interview with my boy Lucas. He's pretty happy with our position. And then Butler also got, you know, says they're underestimating my skill. So props to him. So we've got 1 out of our 5 points. We got one more race weekend to go at Bahrain. So hopefully we can have a better qualifying and better positioning. I think that means we have to become P7, I think, in order to make that team goal. So now that we wasted our points the first time, let's actually buy our gearbox durability upgrade and ICE durability upgrade. I really don't want to have to take gearbox penalties this season. I'm going to push the car pretty hard, and I definitely don't want to take ICE penalties as well. I'm running a lot more in practice to really get the most out of the car so I can kind of hang with these better groups, and I'm having to do a lot more testing in practices as well. As of recording, I've run a couple of races here, and I'm running a lot of laps in P1, P2 in order to get a feel for how the tires behave in longer stints as well. But there you see Red Bull leading the performance index, Mercedes and Ferrari right behind. Take a peek at the amount of wear and amount of damage we did that first race, 19% on the ICE. So hopefully that next ICE development will help out. 14% through the first race. Obviously, once we want to keep it under 15% a race, because that'll put us like at the 90s to finish the last race, which means we'll have some gear jams. So hopefully this upgrade helps us out. But that is the first race, Season 2, some faster opponents. We're in a much faster car. I went and looked at last season as well. Our best lap last season versus this season was a gap of 3.5 seconds faster this year in race pace. So it was a huge difference. The cars are obviously faster thanks to the R&D development, and I've also, you know, had a little more time in the seat, gotten better as a driver. Hence why we bumped the driver difficulty up as well, and that will continue to be tweaked and adjusted. I think season by season, just because there's going to be tracks that obviously the AI is very strong at, like Bahrain's a track that they're very strong at, and other tracks that I'm personally good on compared to the AI. So we'll kind of let those rises and falls come throughout the season. I'm not worried about adjusting it track by track basis. But we are headed to Bahrain next, that night race, and we will see what kind of position we can get, see if we can complete our team objective. Thanks, guys. I'll check you out next time.